Christian Dior dresses women ridiculously. Deep down, what he wants is to be one of them. Coco Chanel commented sarcastically to her friends. It's no mystery that among fashion houses, they've always pulled each other's hair in an internal game of rivalries that even the big bosses secretly engage in. But between Coco Chanel and Christian Dior, there existed a great rivalry and enmity that shaped the fashion industry. So get comfortable and let's begin this journey. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our design explorations. Now let's dive in. The rivalry between the Chanel and Dior fashion houses traces back to their very origins in the 1940s in Paris. Both brands came to define haute couture and lay the foundations for modern fashion as we know it today. Coco Chanel founded her house in 1909, focusing on functionality and simple, feminine style. Her designs revolutionized the way women dressed, freeing them from restrictive Victorian silhouettes and introducing light, sophisticated garments for a more active life. By the 1940s, Chanel had established herself as an icon of Parisian elegance. It was then that Christian Dior launched his brand in 1946 at 30 Avenue Montaigne in Paris. After the chaos of World War II, Dior sought to lift the morale of the French woman through his designs. He presented his first collection, known as New Look, in 1947. His structured feminine silhouettes with wasp waists and billowing skirts with petticoats embodied a return to opulence. Dior's New Look represented a stylistic rebellion against post-war austerity and was an instant success. The collection was a masterclass in structured silhouettes, padded hips, cinched waists, and layer upon layer of tulle, satin, and silk organza, all inspired by Dior's love of the Belle Epoque. The garments were not necessarily the easiest to wear. Some of his evening gowns weighed up to 27 kilograms. But the collection was unapologetically decadent and a rejection of the pragmatic tailoring trend that had been happening in women's fashion for the last 20 years. Dior was not interested in pragmatism, but in dreams and glamour. But this new aesthetic promoted by Dior was far removed from the practical and functional spirit defended by Coco Chanel. The founder of the house bearing her name spoke out against the New Look, criticizing its exaggeratedly wide skirts for hindering women's mobility. Chanel even declared, "Look how ridiculous these women are, wearing clothes by a man who doesn't know women, never had one, and dreams of being one." She didn't stop there either. On several occasions, she was quoted saying Dior doesn't dress women, he upholsters them, and that a woman sitting in a Dior dress looked like an old sofa. And she accused him of dragging women back to the 19th century ideals of femininity, that women were objects worthy of admiration by men. Chanel always opposed fashion dictatorship and allowed fashion to define women's identity. She sought practical garments that allowed women to move freely. Her minimalist aesthetic was based on solid colors, loose silhouettes, and hard-wearing fabrics like jersey or tweed. She aimed for any woman to feel elegant with just 3 basics. This philosophy, rooted in functionality, distanced itself from the extravagance associated with haute couture defended by Dior. Christian Dior, of course, saw things very differently, saying, "I think of my work as ephemeral architecture, dedicated to the beauty of the female body." Dior dedicated meticulous attention to pattern, cut, and finishes. He advocated that every detail should be a work of art. His designs exploited fabrics to their maximum potential through complicated constructions, prints, and embroidery. The hourglass silhouette enhanced femininity, while Chanel advocated for simplicity, proclaiming that fashion passes, only style remains. Dior thought that haute couture should be spectacular, frivolous, and eye-catching. But Chanel was so bothered by Dior's lavish and elaborate appearance that in 1954, at the age of 71, she came out of retirement. From that moment on, Chanel and Dior engaged in a silent battle to determine the direction of fashion. While Chanel kept her bet on sophisticated simplicity through 3 basic pieces, skirt, jersey, and jacket, Dior's collection were characterized by their opulence, based on precious fabrics, elaborate prints, and complex constructions. Each house represented a completely opposite vision of femininity and style. This rivalry was also reflected in the iconic logos of both designers. Chanel's logo, formed by the interlaced C letters, represented the elegance and timeless style that the house stood for. Meanwhile, Dior's modern CD initials logo conveyed his avant-garde spirit and commitment to constant innovation. But if we take a closer look, we can discover something more that usually escapes our sight. Chanel's logo, created in 1924, consists of C letters interlaced in a chain. The letters were designed in an elegant but classic typography that evokes the heritage of Art Deco. The simple, symmetrical design perfectly represents the brand's core values, like sophistication, timeless luxury, and female empowerment. The use of just Coco Chanel's initials denotes sobriety and subtly connects the designer's legacy to the brand. Additionally, the interlacing of the letters suggests unity and bond, conveying the idea of community among all women who wear the brand. The minimalist design remains faithful to Chanel's philosophy of attainable luxury and pure lines. More than 90 years later, the logo remains universally recognizable, no doubt about it. Now, let's take a look at the Dior logo. Created in 1947, just like the brand, is characterized by its opulence. The initials CD are shown in a thick, modern typeface, very different from Chanel's classic logo style. The straight angles and unequal proportions of each letter convey dynamism and avant-garde spirit, highlighting Dior's innovative spirit. The pseudo-graphics evoke the quality and grandiosity associated with haute couture. But by using just Christian Dior's initials, the logo, like Chanel subtly, links the founder to the house, bearing his last name. While clearly different in style and spirit, both brand logos demonstrate an essential shared quality. With just two letters, they perfectly personify each globally renowned brand's vision, values, and unique language. Because, of course, each of these houses knew how to leave their legacy and influence on the world, reaching every taste and style. We cannot deny that Coco Chanel's influence on fashion is immeasurable. More than 100 years after founding her house, her creations remain benchmarks of style and elegance. Through iconic pieces like the little black dress and the 2.55 bag, Chanel defined Parisian sophistication and liberated women from the restrictive silhouettes of the 19th century. Coco was a pioneer in using advertising and merchandising to promote her brand. However, one of her most successful strategies was surrounding herself with emblematic women who perfectly embodied her aesthetic. Audrey Hepburn was one of her first ambassadors, wearing her designs in Breakfast at Tiffany's and becoming the global chic icon we know. And more recently, actresses like Kristen Stewart, Nicole Kidman, and Marion Cotillard have become the new muses of the house, redefining femininity just as in the beginning. This has enormously helped position Chanel as a timeless icon of luxury and glamour on runways and red carpets. But we also cannot deny that many women adore Dior and his creations. His groundbreaking 1947 New Look collection caused a sensation among certain celebrities who loved royalty, opulence, and the return to femininity proposed by Dior. One of his greatest admirers was ballerina Margot Fonteyn. An icon of grace and elegance in the 1950s, Fonteyn distinctively wore the haute couture ball gowns specially created for her by Dior. Another woman captivated by Dior was writer and socialite Nancy Mitford, who helped raise the brand's profile among the English aristocracy, even reaching a young Princess Margaret on her first European tour when she was 18 and visited his Paris atelier. 3 years later, Cécile Bitton photographed Margaret on her 21st birthday, wearing a single-shoulder cream haute couture gown from Dior, with an extraordinary tulle skirt adorned with gold, which the princess called her favorite dress of all. More recently, actresses like Jennifer Lawrence and Eva Green have embodied the delicacy and sensuality intrinsic to the house through red carpets. Nevertheless, one of its most iconic, modern ambassadors has been Natalie Portman, who for years has dazzled at all her events with Dior choices celebrating refined, avant-garde femininity. We cannot fail to mention the intricate dress with impressionist landscape she wore at this year's Golden Globes, or the controversial political statement embroidered on her jacket at the 2020 Oscars, all made by Christian Dior. Now, returning to that rivalry, it may be that their aesthetics were indeed opposite, but the brands they created continue influencing women's fashion, luxury, and sophistication. While for some women the timeless functional simplicity of Chanel is the ultimate expression of style, others prefer the celebratory opulence of design, according to Dior. There is no right answer, only that which best matches each individual style. Also, we must consider that these brands' identities are not static, but have been evolving over time to adapt to new generations. Chanel has incorporated more structured silhouettes, and Dior has embraced looser cuts that combine comfort with glamour. This ability to reinvent themselves is key to enduring a constantly changing industry. Fashion reflects society, and in turn is a form of personal expression. In that sense, the rivalry between Chanel and Dior reminds us that there is no absolute truth when it comes to style. But one thing is certain. Fashion would be nothing without these two 20th century design titans and the legacy they left on the industry. Therefore, the choice between these two giants will depend on our personality, aesthetic preferences, and life circumstances. Do you identify with Chanel's chic sobriety or Dior's carefree glamour? Which would you say best fits your personality? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel too. You'll learn lots about nice clothes and expensive things. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching.